Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another video. There's a lot of things that you can do on this journey to keep yourself on track when you're just starting out. But I think it's a good idea to always try and choose something which you know well, right? Something that you're comfortable with, because once you're comfortable with something, you're not adding stress of learning something new on top of the stress that is already going to come automatically with any of those big changes that you make in your life, especially when you're trying to stop the flow of alcohol, right? So choose something that you're comfortable with. For me, that comfort has always been walking. You know, I've been a walker most of my life, right? Ever since I was a kid. I came from a big family, and my dad used to march us around the place, trying to tire us out, I suppose. You know, I've 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So, you know, we were always out as kids, and my dad, single file, keep to the right, do all this kind of stuff, and yeah, long marches. Anyway, when I stopped drinking alcohol, it was a really natural thing for me to do. Now, I hadn't been a great walker in the past few months before I stopped drinking alcohol. I had a lot of problems with inflammation in my joints, especially my knee joints and my back, and that was caused in part by the alcohol. And I also had chronic heartburn just all the time. I was living off these Rennie tablets, antacid tablets, and that was largely caused by the alcohol as well, some caused by the food that I was eating, but the food that I was eating was a lot to do with the alcohol. Right, so walking really helped me in those first few months back in 2013. It was something that really held me together mentally. It got me out of the house, and it was great exercise. You know, it's pushing me in the direction that I wanted to go. Just putting one foot in front of the other just helped. Marching, that's the only way I can describe it, just step by step by step. You know, there's a sense in that. There's some kind of a sense and a momentum that you get out of the rhythm of that step by step. You know, and even though it might not seem to have been a purpose, there was a purpose in it, you know. Even if the purpose was to walk to a particular point 10, 12 kilometers away and walk back, there was a purpose to it. So I'd almost always start head out on these journeys when it was dark, you know, in the nighttime, early in the morning. But it was always an hour before it got light. And that was because I didn't want any people around. You know, I'd walk along the beach. I'd use the light on my phone to illuminate the steps in front of me until the sun came up, you know. And that was a lovely part of the day as well. And it was getting used to, instead of going to bed late, getting up early and seeing that sunrise every morning. That helped me. And the idea was to give myself space to think. I had so much to think about. You know, when you, like I say, when you step across that line and you are changing one life from another to another, then there is so much to work out, so many problems to figure out. And I had a lot of problems in my life, a lot of problems that I needed to try and sort out. And I think when I need to sort problems out like that, I always seek isolation, because it lets me get into a train of thought without being disturbed by anything else, you know. So even though you might not be able to solve all of your problems in this way, or at least there's no guarantee that you'll come up with any solutions to anything by just walking and thinking, what it gives you is a kind of a momentum. You know, there's often a hierarchy of problem solving that you need to go through. So you have a load of problems, various difficulties, various different difficulties that you have to find solutions for. And some of these problems are going to take a lot of work to sort out. You know, they're not going to be solved overnight. You know, sometimes some of the problems that you have are going to take years to sort, years to solve. Other problems need to be addressed first, you know, so that's what I'm talking about in the hierarchy. You need to solve some problems before you can try and solve the deeper issues in your life. So that's where you start. You start on those simpler things. And for me, the simplest issue at the beginning, the simplest issue that I try and get most of our clients to focus on is just that, is the one that is most pressing at that moment, which is getting back into some semblance of self, of awareness, of life, of thinking, to keep away from the alcohol, to deal with the fallout of not having alcohol in your life anymore, to deal with your body trying to trick you into continuing with that habit, right? Trying to get some routine, trying to stabilize your life in those early stages. It's so important, And I think for me, walking was a huge part of that. It was trying to figure out the puzzle and trying to fit in the pieces where they fit, Part of this process is getting creative. Like I've said, walking has been my thing. It's always been something that I can use to calm my mind. And that's what I needed right then, and I've continued on to this day. It's something that I really love doing. If I want to think something through, get out on my own and get out into a path that I know well. No novelty, nothing new, just same old, and my mind will disappear into itself and be able to get into that thinking mode. So, if you're creative, or if you don't think you're creative, what happens if you don't think you're creative? Because that's the problem with some people. I certainly didn't think I was creative. But you need to start thinking about creativity in a different way, right? Everyone is creative in their own way. I think back to my own life when I was plugged into the alcohol and how creative I managed to get back then, just to uphold that habit, to be able to drink what I wanted to drink without other people knowing. To switch things around. I owned my own business back then, so I've always worked for myself most of my life. So you've got clients that are trying to get things done, and you're trying to shuffle what you're doing with the lifestyle that you're living. That takes creativity. I think back to how creative I got to sometimes avoid standards altogether, right? Or at least to reduce those standards to fit the life that I wanted to live, right? Or a better way of saying that is I was reducing my standards to continue living the life I was living within the habit without having to change the habit. That's another thing that moderation does for you. You're trying to twist and shove in these standards that you've got, or bend the standards. And sometimes those standards will break because you're trying to fit them into a hole where they don't fit. I never set out to live this life. I never set out to build a habit like that. So I can't say it was a life that I wanted to live, but it was a life that I was living. And once you're living it, then, it's like some precious gift. Think of precious gift. Think of the Gollum in The Lord of the Rings and what he values as precious. That's what it's a form of what we do with habits, especially with habits like, I see it all the time. I see it when people drinking and, they talk about the whiskey in that sense. They're not going, oh, my precious. But they are doing a similar thing. You see people smoking cigars. That always amazes me. And because it's not a roll-up, roll-up tobacco, stick it in your mouth, light it, and it looks disgusting. But this cigar, it's got this precious feeling to it. Do you get what I mean? So anyway, walking gave me a chance to think, to get creative, which is ultimately valuable, and it really helped me to come to some crucial decisions in my life, even though it took me some time to make those decisions. Life has a way of unfolding in directions that we didn't originally see ourselves going in that direction. Our behaviors, our choices, they're shaped by so many different factors. Your upbringing, the norms in society, influences from your peer group, personal experiences, all of these things. And it's not uncommon for people to find themselves in a place that they didn't intend to be. They find themselves with habits that they didn't intend to build. Think about it. It's not because you were following this huge master plan. Like I said, this is the place where I wanted to go. This was the destination, definitely, that I found for myself that I wanted. No. Most of this is based on a series of small decisions, small choices. Habits for most people are formed inadvertently. And once they're formed, they can be highly resistant to change. Think about how tough it is to get away from it. Now, there is a process to doing it. And it's not easy once you follow a process, but it's certainly easier, and it becomes much more likely that you'll deal with the habit if you have a process. So the first step is always recognizing that you've developed habits that just aren't in line and following in line with what your true values are, your true desires are. And some of those you might have to go back to all the way to your childhood to find what they are. Sometimes you might have to rethink those things. That's part of the work that I've had to do in my own life. It's part of the work that we focus so much of our time in Habits V2 in the later stages. Once we get past month 2, it's so much about building up from that foundation of solid values, solid desires that you want in your life, and not for things, but for the person that you want to be, building up a certain amount of integrity for yourself. So it's a significant step towards making a change happen when you can figure those things out for yourself. Habits, whether positive or negative, they have a powerful influence over our actions. It's one of the biggest things that we teach, deliberately dismantling habits that don't serve you and deliberately constructing habits that are going to help you to thrive in life. So anyway, if you're just starting out on this journey of unplugging from the alcohol and you want to take control of your narrative, I recommend checking out our beginner's guide to unplugging from alcohol. It gives you some very basic insights and concepts from our main program, which are going to help you to just edge a little bit closer to making that decision of unplugging from alcohol. Right? It's free. The link's in the description, as is the link for our full stop drinking program. We've got a very comprehensive program that takes you all the way through from preparing to stop drinking alcohol, stepping over that line, and just coping without the alcohol in your life. And then obviously breaking down the habit. That's so important, to get rid of that habit so that it never comes back. Right? Building new habits that are going to support you, and then get into that first year alcohol-free, which is such a great milestone. Every step, every thought, every action that you take in the right direction, these are all testaments to how strong and how resilient you can be. This journey from unplugging from the alcohol is going to certainly make some demands on you. It certainly takes some courage to step over that line. Perseverance, patience, positivity, right? Determination. And it needs some kind of a clear vision. But it is what it is, in life. You get out of this journey what you put into it, and you shouldn't expect any more. You have to get out of that instant gratification mindset in order to be able to move on to something better. I'll leave it there for today. Take care, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye now.